Meanwhile, speaking of 82, the Raptors are going 82 and they'll play their first game at Scotiabank Arena in more than 18 months when they host the 76ers Monday in preseason action. You can see it on Sportsnet 1. Matt Devlin, Alvin Williams, our guy, will have the call at 7 Eastern time. Speaking of our guys, there's been a few changes in and around the Sportsnet building, and a lot of them surround our Raptors coverage. We are happy to have a bunch of different people who have covered the Raptors at a very high level joining the crew, including my next guest. Joining me now is a full-time member of the Sportsnet crew, Blake Murphy. What's up, Blake? Welcome to the crew, homie.
Thanks for having me, guys. Feels good. Happy to be part of the team and do things like this, and excited to get to work with Will Liu and Alex Wong again and expand the Raptors coverage here. Ready to go.
That's awesome. It felt like an eternity for those in that culture who are following very closely along for you to make this announcement. So I'm glad we can finally say that you're part of the crew.
Yeah, Media Day was a little weird covering it remotely and sending all these tweets, and every response is, "Who do you work for?" I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll wait for that announcement to come out. I did the same thing to you, too. I think I sent you one halfway through going, "Are you here right now? Like, where the hell are you?"
Now, I was hanging in the rafters like Sting, just watching from way up top at Scotiabank.
Awesome. All right, so let's talk a little Raptors here. And obviously, this is going to be a different year. On the macro, where do you think this team slots in the East?
Yeah, I think they're one of those fringy teams, and I know that's the most hated spot for fans. I think is you're not at the very top. You don't get the excitement of tanking, or they're probably not going to pick as high as 4, even if they slide out of the playoffs. The way the East stacks up, I think there's a pretty clear top 4 come playoff time, and you'd probably call that a top 6. In terms of regular season standings. And then there's a big mess, 7 through 12, 7 through 13. If you're optimistic about the Cavs taking a step forward, as I am, it's really only Orlando and Detroit who are, non-factors standing wise, even though they'll be able to beat you on a given night, of course.
Right.
So I think the Raptors are in that kind of 7 to 12 mix. I'd put them on the higher end of that. I thought their Vegas win total over under 36.5 was a little light, just considering everything that had to break wrong last year for them to miss the play-in, and then they still had to aggressively make sure that they missed the play-in and got the better lottery odds. So, I forced to pick, I'd say 7th, but I think that the separation between 7 to 12 and even 5 and 6 to 12, depending on how you feel about the Celtics, there could be a lot of change in there. Injuries swing some things, like 1 or 2 guys breaking out. But yeah, I think there's that big meaty tier in the East, and the Raptors will be looking to establish themselves as the top of that group.
It's interesting to me, and for those who don't know Blake, he tends to fine-tooth comb things. There is a work ethic, and there is an attention to detail that he brings to the table that I absolutely love. So what's the one thing kind of percolating right now in your research that has you intrigued enough that you may or may not have to write something about this is how the Raptors go from that fringe to maybe a little bit of a surprise?
Yeah, I think, there are 2 big things, and they're both related to the way this roster is constructed. More so when Pascal Siakam returns than with him out, because while he's out, you just anyone who can get a bucket at all, Tim, if you can hit the 3, they might throw you out there.
No.
But I think this team at its fully formed is really interesting stylistically, and just in terms of what is the modern NBA. And they've joked a lot about, hey, maybe we'll throw out 5, 6'9" players, but it's not really a joke. So I think, the 2 areas I'm looking at is how much play style diversity can there be around that hyper versatile lineup. We know defensively that a group like that could zone up a lot. They could create a ton of turnovers with their length. But how do you make it work offensively if you have Fred VanVleet and then a bunch of forwards? And what flows from that, because I think those units will be really successful defensively, is I think that this could be a really, really good transition offense team. That's not enough to put your offense into the top 5, top 8 on its own. We saw last year even the Raptors had a pretty strong transition offense still, and were poor enough in the half court that overall they weren't an elite scoring team. But I think with the amount of turnovers this team's going to force, the amount of speed they have going the other way, and the amount of playmakers they have, and not just in terms of a guy like Fred VanVleet, but Siakam, Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby a little bit now, even Precious Achiuwa, all of those guys are guys who can come up with a turnover or a defensive rebound and not have to stop and look for the point guard. They can grab that ball and push off it. They're even trying to get Khem Birch to do that a little bit, which is something he's really never done before. So I think you look at the ability to force turnovers there and how dynamic this team could be on the break. I think this could be a really special transition offense. The question will be, is that enough? Can you hold teams to, 90, 95 points and just outrun them to make up for the fact that, in the half court, things are going to be a little sticky?
Can Gary Trent Jr. defend enough to get enough minutes to score like we know he can?
Yeah, I think, I think certainly his defensive performance is a little below where the tools and where the reputation in Portland were. I think he knows that he has to improve a lot on that end. He has some of the tools. He's got decent lateral quickness. He's got length. He gets into the ball well. It's just a matter of figuring out his spots and, cutting down on things like getting back cut or, how do you be aggressive here but not give something up over here as a result of that.
Right.
So that'll be a challenge for him. I think the Raptors are going to need shooting and scoring so much that whether he ends up in that starting two-guard role or is kind of the trigger man in the second unit, he's going to get a lot of attempts. And last year we saw him take 9, 10 three-point attempts per 36 minutes, hit at roughly a 40% clip. If you could shoot that many threes at that level, teams are going to find a way to get you on the floor. And the Raptors really need that skill set.
I feel like from my time covering specific sports, not having to know every sport, there was always a story by the end of the year that I was annoyed by, and I just took a contrarian view because I didn't want to have the same opinion as everyone else. Is Pascal Siakam going to be that annoying story this year?
I don't know. I guess it depends. I'm going to be co-hosting a show with JD Bunkus now, so probably for me. I don't know about for everyone else. But no, I think, there are certainly going to be people who maybe want the answer to the big Pascal Siakam questions the second that he's back from injury. Obviously, the more realistic take is that it's going to take a little while for him to figure it out and for us to figure out where he's at. I could certainly see it, drawing ire from the Raptors themselves and Nick Nurse getting asked about it every day. And, it's actually, I think, an interesting part of Siakam's growth because, I think most fans recognize that he feels like he's at his best when he's playing with that energy and love of the game. And he lost that a bit in the bubble and the COVID exposure and all that stuff. It's been a very up and down road for him. And part of that is I don't know how he's handled the public-facing criticism now that he's the max guy. And we saw, those quotes in the New York Times piece about his kind of grapple with the idea of being the man. So I'm very curious to see how he responds to all of this as well, because the joyful version of Pascal Siakam, I think, is a more effective version of him as well.
Without a doubt. The thing that bugs me, or that I'm waiting to bug me, is that he'll have the 30-point game and everyone will be saying, this is awesome, he's back, he's the man. And then he'll have the 15-point game with 6 rebounds and people will be saying, why do you pay him max? Like, I feel like so much hinges on him because they need him to be so much to be successful this year.
For sure. And we saw it last year, too, even when Kyle Lowry was still there. That game on the line, the ball was in Pascal Siakam's hands. And that didn't go great last year. And I don't think that's, necessarily a problem that will stick around. I think there was some bad luck there and some randomness and some, figuring out how to be the man. But in terms of the nights where he's not scoring 30, and there are going to be some nights where he does for sure, the big test for him is, and this was such a great Kyle Lowry thing that Lowry did over his years here, is can you impact winning when the three-point shot's not there that day, or you can't get to the rim that day, or the whistle's not going your way? And I think that Siakam's been a little up and down with that. As his offensive role grew, maybe the defense became a little less consistent. Still at its high end, very good, but a little less consistent. And, now that he's got the playmaking package and the ball handling responsibility, and they're going to be relying on him to be part of this super switchy defense, I think that's the next step for him as a top guy. Is the 30-point nights will be there, but when they're not, are you helping this team win?
I think that was the beef between player and team last year was, okay, we know what you can do offensively. We know what you can do when you're on top of your game. Now, when it's going to crap, like every pro player goes through, how do you impact our team winning? And I think that's what they went through last year. All right, so we've got about 2 minutes left here, and I know there's a bunch of intriguing subplots to this year. I feel like the hardcore's love of Scotty Barnes might be hard to live up to for Scotty Barnes. Where do you, what's best case scenario for Scotty Barnes this year?
Yeah, look, points per game Twitter is not going to love Scotty Barnes this year, at least, especially compared to Jalen Suggs. I think where Barnes is going to stand out is, first of all, obviously, if you're a fan who's social media savvy and is watching things like Open Gym, he's just got such a magnetic personality.
Right.
I think the far bigger thing for him is he's going to have to show the defensive side. I would hope people can be patient with the scoring package. There are going to be some ups and downs with that young a player getting so much ball handling responsibility from a kind of a wing forward position. And he's much further advanced with that in transition right now than he is in the half court. But if he can come in and defend day one the way that they think he can defend it, and I'm not saying reach your defensive upside right away, but
right.
Make those plays, show that length, be a magnet for the ball. You guys just showed the clip as I was speaking there of him hitting the deck at Summer League and creating a fast break out of it from on his butt. That's the kind of stuff that I think people be able to latch onto. I think, Mike Prada has always had this feature of film room all-stars, and Zach Lowe does some stuff like that too. And
yeah.
I think especially defensively, Scotty Barnes has some real potential there for the hardcores.
All right, last one, and this is for the hardcores. Give me an intriguing storyline on a guy that not everyone is focused on right now. Like, is there the pride of Rexdale? Where do you want to go with? Give me something on someone else.
Yeah, Delano's he's going to be a great story. And I think, I want to do a feature with him where we just try to find the best TTC route to Paramount Fried Food Center in Mississauga, because there's no good way to get there if you don't drive. Maybe he's got a better shortcut there from Rexdale than I have from downtown. But I think Benton's going to be a really, really fun 905 experiment. It certainly sounds like they see him out of the gate as a point guard. And at 6'9", and with his ability to, cover a ton of open court really quickly with that stride length and the vision that he has, it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be some bumps. He can't really shoot yet. Defensively, he's very, very slender, even though the effort level's there. But I think he's going to be a super fun 905 project and a really, interesting one, especially if you're a hardcore or if you're someone who's out at 905 games. It's a 6'9" point guard who's a local kid as well. There's lots to chew on with that Delano Banton story.
We need a Paramount Fine Foods Center up. And for the rest of Canada, I'll explain that after the break. Love talking basketball with you. Hope we can do it a bunch. Hope to do it in roundtable form with all the dudes that just joined. It's going to be fun. And if you like the Raptors, Sportsnet is now your home officially. Thanks, Mike Murphy.
Thanks, Ben.
All right.